Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at EX2, and EX2, even though it's not a huge set, it still offers us lots of new and powerful cards to build and iterate on some new and existing decks with. And today's deck I'm going to be talking about is going to be a new iteration on the Gallantmon deck. So Gallantmon does have some support from previous sets, and he even has a starter deck to pull from. So right now what you're looking at here is going to be if you were to buy 2 copies of the starter deck, upgrade it, and just buy a couple of booster boxes from EX2 to be able to upgrade it. But in terms of upgrading it past the starter deck, there's a couple of different directions that you could go depending on the synergies that you're lining up. So going over the actual deck profile, starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Gurimon. This is the 5th Digitama. It doesn't have to be Gurimon if you don't want it to be, and it could be anything you feel like you want to use, but I just feel like Gurimon is just a really good supporting card, just because it's acting similar to our main Digitama, which allows us to try to draw cards. So having 2 different sets of Digitama to draw cards is really helpful. So Gurimon has the ability where when attacking once per turn, if this Digimon has 6,000 or more DP, then we get to draw a card, which is really easy levels of card draw, especially for red, since we're already playing with some very powerful Digimon, and it's going to be triggering most of the time when we're swinging with our level 5s and up. But in terms of something a little bit better and more on synergy, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gigimon as the primary Digitama. So this, like Gurimon, is going to be acting as our draw engine, where it has a when attacking once per turn inheritable ability, where if we have a Digimon that has Guilmon, Growlmon, or Gallantmon in its name, then we get to draw 1 card. So it's just, again, more card draw for us to use that's more on synergy, so it's a little bit easier for the style of deck to incorporate. Next, onto the level 3s, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Monodramon. Sometimes having that tempo card is still just really nice. We're just playing this card not for its inheritable abilities, but its stats, but if you wanted to swap this out with any card that actually does have some abilities, then it's a flex spot of the deck, and you're more than welcome to do so. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Biyomon. So Biyomon is just more draw for the deck, just because we want to try to make our deck as consistent as we possibly can. So it has a really easy to trigger inheritable ability of when attacking once per turn. If this Digimon attacks the player, so basically if you're attacking their security, then you get to draw 1 card, making it just some really easy card draw. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Guilmon. So this is the brand new EX2 version of Guilmon, and this Guilmon is really good for the deck because of its obvious Gallantmon-based synergies. So it has a nice on-play ability that's acting as the deck's dedicated digger to try to help with its overall consistency, which is something Red has generally lacked in the past, but this deck seems to have a really good, solid consistency engine. So what this card is looking for is we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck and add a card with Growlmon or Gallantmon in its name and 1 Takado from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So he's just, again, another digger for a lot of our parts and pieces. Then he has a nice inheritable ability for us to take advantage of when attacking once per turn. If this Digimon has Growlmon or Gallantmon in its name, then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with a 3000 DP or less, acting as some more control for, a control-based deck as an inheritable ability. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be, again, 4 copies of Guilmon. So this is the starter deck version of Guilmon, and not only is this just another really good draw engine for the deck because we're trying to delete the opponent's Digimon, and it has a nice inheritable ability where during your turn once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, we get to draw a card, again adding to the overall consistency of the deck, but he has a warp potential where we could warp a Digivolve him into a Gallantmon as long as the opponent has a level 6 or higher Digimon in play. Then we get a warp into Gallantmon from our hand by paying 4 and ignore its Digivolution requirements. So it's just a very easy card to want to use because we're already going to be running a Gallantmon, so it's just another good high synergy card. Next, onto the level 4s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Growlmon. So this is the EX Growlmon, and this card is again trying to play around with deleting the opponent's Digimon and interacting a little bit with our Growlmon and Gallantmon based synergies. So he has a nice when attacking ability where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 2000 DP or less. Then if we have a red Tamer in play, then we get to delete a Digimon with 4000 DP or less instead. So if we do need to swing with our level 4 to try to control the opponent's field, then he's a really good card at doing so. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Greymon. So this is the very first starter deck version of Greymon, and this card is just helping us with our overall damage output. So it has the nice inheritable ability of giving whatever he's under security attack +1 to punch the opponent's security a little bit harder than they normally would. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Growlmon. So we are going to be playing around with trying to delete the opponent's Digimon a lot, so it makes sense to run this version of Growlmon because it rewards us for doing so, and there's a lot of deletion effects in the deck that we want to try to take advantage of. So his reward is allowing us to gain a memory during our turn once per turn when one of the opponent's Digimon is deleted. It doesn't necessarily specify if it's by card effect or by battle, so we can just gain a memory for the sheer act of deleting the opponent's Digimon, which we have multiple ways of doing in the deck. Next, on to the ultimates, I'm going to be running 4 copies of RizeGreymon. So RizeGreymon is an absolutely fantastic card for this deck just because it helps us play our Tamers, which we do want to try to play our Tamers as efficiently as we possibly can to combo off with. So he also counts as a yellow Digimon, which generally won't matter. It could if you're trying to go for that type of synergy, but most of the time it won't. We're just using him for his main ability of Digiburst 2 to allow us to play a red or yellow Tamer with a play cost of 4 or less from our hand for free. So even though it is costing us some of our inheritable abilities, sometimes we do just need to get that Tamer out to be able to make more powerful plays with. Then he even has a nice inheritable ability that's adding to the control aspect that the deck is trying to lean into. So his inheritable ability is a when attacking ability, where if you have a Tamer in play, then one of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 2000 DP, so it's adding a different type of removal to the deck while being able to extend the reach of our DP deletions. So we could minus the DP first and then trigger our deletion effect to be able to delete a larger body than what it normally would. And then the last ultimate of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Growlmon. So this Growlmon is another really good card to just extend the reach of our deletions, while also trying to delete himself. So he has a nice when attacking ability that's similar to Growlmon, where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 4000 DP or less. Then if we have a red Tamer in play, we get to delete a Digimon that's 6000 DP or less. So that's just a pretty decent removal type of ability, being able to clean up most level 4s and below. Then on top of that, he has an inheritable ability where during your turn, the maximum DP of the effects that are deleting is increased by 1000. So it's similar to RizeGreymon, where it's just increasing the range in which our DP deletion effects can actually delete, allowing us to delete larger bodies than we normally would. Then as far as the level 6s go, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Gallantmon. So this is the brand new EX Gallantmon, and this is just a powerhouse card. So he has 3 abilities. The first ability is during your turn, this Digimon gets 2000 DP. So on base, he's swinging for 14,000, which is just already a lot. Then his secondary ability states that during your turn, while you have a red Tamer in play, the maximum DP of your effects that are deleting Digimon is increased by 2000. So it's just extending the range of our DP deletion effects, so that way we could again delete higher and stronger targets. Then on top of that, he has a third ability where when attacking, we get to choose any number of the opponent's Digimon whose total DP adds up to 6,000 or less and delete them. So this in combination with Rise, it means that we could basically extend our reach to 8,000 with his ability up to 10,000. So that's already just a lot of removal that we could incorporate, and we could spread it out to multiple different targets in case they're trying to flood the field for even better control. And then the last level 6 of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Megidramon. So this is the brand new EX2 version of Megidramon, and this card has his own levels of combo and synergy to help it make the deck flow and function. So yes, he is a little bit more expensive to play in terms of his evolution cost, costing 5 to digivolve off of red or purple, but it's backed up by the fact that he has 13,000 DP natively, and this card is also treated as Chaos Gallantmon, so we could try to line up our Gallantmon based synergies still utilizing this card. Then he has 2 really solid abilities of his own. He has a nice when digivolving ability where we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 10,000 DP or less. Then if this effect doesn't delete a Digimon, then we trash the top 5 cards of both players' decks. So this is a good card to help it digivolve and control the opponent's field. Then he has a nice on-deletion ability of his own to make him a little bit stickier, where we get to play 1 Guilmon and 1 Takado from our hand or trash without paying their memory costs. So just being able to help play our Tamers is really good, and resetting up a Guilmon to help have a body on field still to evolve all the way up our chain makes him a really appealing card for the deck to use. And then the last Digimon of the deck, and only level 7 of the deck, is going to be 2 copies of Gallantmon Crimson Mode. So Gallantmon Crimson Mode is an absolutely fantastic card just because, well, he's another Gallantmon for us to take advantage of. No, you cannot use the starter deck Guilmon to warp all the way into Gallantmon Crimson Mode because it's asking for just a Gallantmon. So you won't be able to digivolve him into Megidramon either, just because he's also treated as a Chaos Gallantmon. But regardless, he's still a good card because of his 2 very powerful abilities to help it control the opponent's field and deal some extra damage to them. So when we digivolve into him, we get to delete all of the opponent's Digimon with the highest DP, so he's just a good, great equalizer to delete 1, potentially more, targets on the opponent's field. Then he even has a nice when attacking ability that's acting very similar to what we saw all the way back on BT02's Gallantmon. So his when attacking ability states that we get to trash the top card of the opponent's security stack, then we get to increase the number of cards trashed by this effect by 1 for every 10 cards in the opponent's trash. So the more cards that are in the opponent's trash, the stronger this card's ability becomes to easily close out games. The important thing with this secondary ability to keep in mind is that the trashing happens before the damage, so if you end up trashing the opponent's security and they don't have any security left, then his swing automatically wins you the game, just because the opponent doesn't have any security for him to be checking. Next, on to the options, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Red Memory Boost. So Red Memory Boost is another consistency tool for the deck to use, just because, again, Red generally has a hard time with its overall consistency. So it has the nice main ability where we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck, add a red Digimon from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom, with this card being placed into the battle area for its secondary ability of delay to gain us 2 memory at a later turn. So this not only just helps us dig for the cards that we need, but helps set up our memory to make more powerful plays possible later. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Gaiaforce. So Gaiaforce is kind of a flex spot in the deck. You could kind of swap it out with whatever you feel like you need, just because we already have so much removal already. But I think Gaiaforce is still useful as a security threat, just because its security ability activates its main ability, and its main ability allows us to delete one of the opponent's Digimon outright. And then the last option card is also a flex spot for the deck. It doesn't necessarily have to be Atomic Blaster, but I'm going to be running 1 copy of Atomic Blaster just because it's still a solid control tool to use for the mid-game. So it has the nice main ability where we get to delete any number of the opponent's Digimon whose total DP adds up to 8,000 and delete them. We could utilize this in combination with some of our abilities to extend the reach of our DP deletion effects to make this an even stronger card. Then on top of that, it's also going to be a nice security threat for some extra control and fear for the opponent attacking into our security because its security, like Gaiaforce, activates its main. And then lastly, onto the Tamers, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Tai Kamiya. So Tai Kamiya is going to be the deck's dedicated memory fixing tamer, so if you wanted to swap him out with any other memory fixing tamer, then you easily could, but I do like Tai's ability to just always set us to 3 if we're at to anything less than 3 memory, and he has a nice upside where if our Digimon have 4 or more Digivolution sources in them, then they gain security attack +1. So this just helps us extend the damage output of what the deck can do for literally just going up our stages with. And then the last tamer of the deck is probably one of the most important cards, and that's going to be 4 copies of Takado. So Takado is kind of the glue that's tying the deck together, just because he has this nice ability where during your turn, if the opponent's Digimon is deleted, then we get to suspend this tamer to gain a memory. So just the act of trying to delete the opponent's Digimon helps make our cards more efficient, which is always nice. And on top of that, the ability we're really trying to take advantage of is his secondary ability, where during your turn, when you would Digivolve into a Digimon with Gallantmon or Growlmon in its name, then it gains the when Digivolving ability of Blitz to be able to attack even when the memory passes on the opponent's side for the turn. So the whole idea is we're just going to climb our stack. We don't necessarily care about our memory efficiency as much, just because a lot of our Digimon will be gaining the Blitz ability to be able to attack the turn we Digivolve into them, regardless if the memory is going to pass over onto the opponent's side, to be able to utilize a lot of our cards even more efficient and effectively than they normally would. And then we still have even more cards to think about, not only just from what we got from the starter deck, but we could run the old BT02 Gallantmon line if we really wanted to, just to double down on the Gallantmon and Guilmon synergies we could be playing around with. Then the card that helps facilitate that is going to be Calumon, to make playing Calumon a little bit easier, and Calumon is a pretty interesting Digimon, kind of acting like a tamer with DP. Even though he won't be able to attack, he's a really good card at helping us generate resources, because when our Digimon would Digivolve, we get to rest this Digimon to gain a memory and draw a card, and that Digimon gains some extra DP. So he's just a really good card to help the deck flow and function. Then as far as a whole bunch of other Guilmons that we could play, we do have the promo Guilmon that helps us draw a card when we attack with him. So if we need to be aggressive early on, then this is the perfect card to do that with. Then we do just have a whole bunch of other cards that we could use generically. So we have the BT01 Agumon and by extension BT04 Flamemon to try to help dig out our Tamers. So Agumon will look at the top 5 for any color Tamer, and Flamemon is more specifically our red Tamers, but Flamemon also lets us dig out our hybrids, which we also could run a hybrid just to try to help close out the game and act as an alternate win condition. Then on top of that, we do have some floodgates that we could run in the form of Gaussmon to try to stop the opponent from having the ability to reduce their Digivolution costs, which could be important depending on the meta. But if you want to run something a little bit more generic for interacting with our Tamers, then we could play something like Gamamon to be able to draw a card when we play our red Tamers, and act as some really good extra forms of deletion by having a when attacking ability to help delete the opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less, for our Digimon literally having 6000 or more DP. Or if you wanted to, you could just run any generic inheritable level 3 rookie that increases the DP to be able to make some of our other Digimon stronger. Then in terms of other really solid Digimon to be playing around with, outside of what you've already seen from the starter deck, we also have Monodramon if we want to run a tempo-efficient blocker. And a really good supporting level 5 that you could also think about utilizing to help play our Tamers more efficiently could be Metal Greymon, because his on-playability, if we already have a Tamer, could gain us some extra memory, making him a cheap level 5 to play, or if we don't have a Tamer, then he'll help set up our Tamer for free. Then on top of that, he also is interacting with the fact that we want to delete the opponent's Digimon by helping us with gaining some memory to make our cards more efficient for doing so. Then if you do just want to run a Blitz Omni, just because Blitz Omni for game is still a thing, acting as an alternate win condition for the deck, then he's a really good card at doing so. Then we do have a couple of cards to try to take advantage of Royal Knight-based synergy, so if you wanted to try to work in the Sistermons, you could, and we even have Judgment of the Blade to act as some solid control for the opponent's Digimon, allowing our Royal Knights to attack into the opponent's Digimon, even if they're unsuspended. Then we do just have a slew of other removal type options that we can incorporate. So we could use Forbidden Trident, we could use Crimson Blaze. We just have a lot of different effects that allow us to try to delete the opponent's Digimon. And with our ability to increase the range of our DP deletion, it only makes cards like these stronger. But if you wanted to, you could run some utility type cards just to try to help the deck's overall flow. So you could run something like Lightning Joust to try to increase the overall DP and damage that you're going to want to try to deal, or you could run something like a Fireball / Pyrosphere to be able to help delete the opponent's Digimon in the early game, or at worst, draw some extra cards, which is never a bad thing to want to try to do, and having that option is always nice. Then we do have some other tamers that we could think about utilizing. We could think about utilizing Yoli to help with our memory management and manipulation, just because having a red Digimon in play will grant us an extra memory, so we could potentially start our memory at 4 or more, combined with a memory fixing tamer, and she also gets to act as some extra control for our brand new Megidramon, because it's 2 colors, to help delete some of the opponent's Digimon. Or if you wanted to run something more generic, if you don't have access to Tai, then Hero works just as well, because he's another memory fixing tamer that'll also help with our DP by increasing the DP of our level 5 or higher Digimon. So this just goes to show that there's just a lot that the deck can do, and there's a lot of cards to call upon and think about utilizing to really have a very fun and powerful deck. And I think this is going to be one of the better decks that are going to be coming out of EX02. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.